Fasting benefits for health. What is the best kind of fast and how to fast for health and longevity? Let's look at the science behind water fasting, intermittent fasting, caloric restriction, juice fasting, what is the fad, what is the best information out there on fasting and how can help your health to reach the next level. Do you want to know more about fasting and how to live a healthful life, or even raw vegan recipes? Hygienic Fasting, Nature Surgery, and the book Natural Delicacies, Cooking Without a Stove are available on Amazon, and Hygienic Fasting is actually available on print on demand, so you can receive it at your home. But I also have 8 books published, 6 online courses, retreats here in Brazil, and I attend patients online in private sessions. Unfortunately, all the other books and the online courses are still only available in Portuguese. But if you want my help as a nutritionist, or even if you want to come to a retreat in Brazil, just sign up. The contact will be on the website and in the links below. And please don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell button for notifications, comment, share the video. If you do all those, you are going to help the channel to grow. If we grow, you grow together, getting more vital, life-changing information and help yourself and others to make this a more healthy and better planet for all of us. Hi, I'm Dr. Corassa, a clinical nutritionist from Brazil that have saved his life almost 18 years ago through natural hygiene, what we call the science of health. A lifestyle medicine model that preaches fasting, a fruit and vegetable-based diet, and a lot of other health concepts that we would have in nature that we forgot and we severely underestimate nowadays, but could be the medicine of the future. And for sure, it was the medicine of the past. Before we start the lecture today, I'm going to introduce you a little bit of my path to get to the comprehension of fasting and why I fasted for 40 days on water, 24 days, 23 days, why I did many water fasts, hygienic water fasts for the last 20 years, and why you should listen carefully until the end of this lecture, because maybe fasting can save your life, because it saved my life, and it's the ultimate mechanism of regeneration that nature created inside of all of us, inside of all living creatures, all living organisms, not just creatures, not just animals, but even plants can regenerate through fasting. 18 years ago, for the 22 first years of my life, I was really ill. I was always suffering with a lot of symptoms and not knowing what was causing it. So when I was around 20 years of age, I started looking for answers because I wanted to heal myself, and also I was a Counter-Strike professional player. That is like my old profession. We're not going to talk too much about it, but I was trying to be the best I could in my sport. That was some kind of electronic sport, right? And I started going to a lot of medical doctors. And all the answers that they gave me was that my diseases were hereditary, genetic, I was born with it, and I could do surgery, but they were not going to be the end all and be all. They would help. Surgery and pills would help, but I would have to live with these diseases forever. I was diabetic, about to do a back surgery, nose surgery. My back hurted like crazy. Lombalgia, the pain in my lower back. Also, my nose, I couldn't breathe anymore through one nostril, and the breathing for the other nostril was terrible. Also, I was having difficulty learning since I was really young. I always had coordination issues and also learning issues. I wasn't, the brightest or the best athlete you could say, right? And when I was after 20 years of age, that I started like gaining weight, eating a lot of junk food and a lot of other bad health behaviors that started to get really worse. So I was not learning well as I think I should in college. I was also suffering from overweight. I was actually obese, a BMI 30, that is already obese. I was almost 100 kilos. That would be 230 pounds probably. And I was having a lot of other issues like fevers, colds, constipation, allergies. If there's one symptom out there human beings can have, you can name it. I did have it, or I did probably suffer from it once in my life. And then I was trying the old way, the usual way, the allopathic way for 20 years. At the time, actually 22 years, because I kept searching until 22 years of age. And after trying allopathic medicine, I went to naturopathic medicine. I tried acupuncture, I tried osteopaths, I tried chiropractors, I tried herbal remedies like homeopathy, but nothing was really working since the usual ways, the natural ways, and I kept looking for answers. And then I stumbled upon a raw food diet. And I felt like, well, I tried everything. Maybe I should try living and eating like an animal. It makes a lot of sense. Let's try to eat more similar to what we would have eaten in nature, that is, the food in its natural state. I didn't know about Maillard reaction end products and the cooked food toxins and the loss of nutrients. I didn't know all the science that I know nowadays, but for sure it made a lot of sense. And I started to apply it in my daily life, and in 3 days, my allergies were gone. My respiratory issues were gone. I could breathe better, I could think better, I could think more clearly in what I wanted from life, I could see better, I could smell better, everything started, my body started to work a lot better. And I was amazed. I was completely amazed with the results of just 3 days in a raw food diet. And I kept searching and searching for answers. And then finally and thankfully, I found Dr. Douglas Graham from the 80-10-10 diet. And then he pointed me to study natural hygiene. For sure, after reading the 80-10-10, I became a frugivore. I started living primarily on fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds for almost 20 years now. And I don't live only fruit or only fruits and vegetables. No, I eat legumes, I eat algae, I eat mushrooms, I eat a lot of stuff. But for sure, my main staple of diet is fruits and vegetables because we are still anthropoid primates. If you don't understand or don't believe it, I'll please ask you to click on the link below or click on the cards so I can point you out to the last podcast on the Eden's diet, on the Garden of Eden's diet that I already did. It's 1 hour and a half. It's well worth your time so you can learn perfect nutrition in terms of human beings. So I started studying natural hygiene, the science of health, and then I found Dr. Herbert Shelton, that he was one of my main mentors. Although he was already dead when I found him, he supervised 40,000 water fasts during his career, during his whole life. And he was really passionate about fasting because he saw 40,000 cases from really sick people that maybe was going to die in a short time, get back to health and live for many years more in functioning way better. Maybe they don't reverse their diseases, but they could live a way better life with natural hygiene lifestyle. That means simple things like exercise, sleep, sunshine, interaction with nature, interaction with other human beings, like love, for example. It's important. Having sex and the release of oxytocin. There's a lot of hygienic factors that most people that even practice hygiene don't care too much about it, but they are our biological needs that we got adapted in terms of genes for millions of years of human evolution and for millions of years of primate evolution. Primates are evolving for maybe 50 million to 150 million according to science. And human beings have been already on Earth for 8 to 6 millions of years. So we have underestimated in modern days the importance of these precise biological needs that we would get in nature. For example, the amount of vitamin C that you would eat if you eat like 10 oranges. Yeah, people think like, that's too much fruit. But no, that is the normal amount that a human being would eat in nature. And for sure would provide a lot of more vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, fiber that would make a lot of difference in our health. But because everybody's sick around us, we don't understand, we don't see it, we don't believe it, that we are still frugivore animals. And after I practiced a frugivore diet for 6 months and reading Herbert Shelton, and my health was like completely different. For sure, the results are different. I got a little bit more leaner, my thoughts changed, my perception of the world changed. For sure, social things get a little bit more difficult because people think you're crazy and like you don't eat what they usually eat. But just in the beginning, after a while, you get used to it and it gets way much better. But after studying Herbert Shelton's work for 6 months, I decided to do my first water fast. So after reading so much of Herbert Shelton's work and feeling that my body didn't want food, like since I was young, I had appetite, but I didn't have real hunger. That means I could look at a banana and I was like, no, I don't want it. I could look at a broccoli or a nut or, like lettuce or a squash or beans. I could eat it, but I had aversion for vegetables, right? Maybe a fruit, some rare fruit, some 1 or 2 fruits maybe I could eat with my hands. But besides of that, all vegetables, I was disgusted by it. I couldn't eat rice and beans. That was the only thing I could eat, like rice, beans, meat, and potatoes. But potatoes, even then, it was French fries, like I couldn't eat real food because I wasn't really hungry. My body was sick from so much industrialized food, from so much processed food, salt, sugar, flour, preservatives, additives, emulsifiers. I was eating so much crap since I was young that I didn't have real hunger, and I could feel a lot more when I got into raw foods. Because when you start eating living food, your body talks to you. It's like maybe the microbiome, I don't know what it is, but I could feel more my my neurological feedback was telling me like, no, you don't need food right now. You're not really hungry. You have body fat to spare while I can repair the machine. Like, yeah, I'm going to get into details. So my body, I could feel that I didn't have any hunger whatsoever. I was eating for appetite for like almost 6 months, the raw food diet. And then when I started fasting, it was the best thing ever. My body was like rewarding me for going without food. It was like the strangest feeling I ever had because I never fasted in my whole life. I never spent 1 day without eating. And like I grew up eating like 3 times, 5 times a day, 6 times a day, pretty frequently the whole day. So it was pretty amazing to stay like 1 day without food, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days without food and not get hungry. Like I could eat, but I didn't mind eating. Actually, I felt better not eating than when I was eating. It was like so many new sensations that I was feeling in my body, and it made so much sense, not just by reading Dr. Herbert Shelton's work, of a lot of case reports from his book, like a man that couldn't hear anymore. After 10 years of not hearing, he came back, he could hear again after more than 50 days of water fast. He was impotent, he was having erectile dysfunction, and he didn't have any more after the fast. So it's pretty impressive how well the body can function and how much lower function we accept, because people are living sick out there and they just don't care. they don't understand that they could be living a way much better life, not just in terms of quality of life, but in terms of functionality. It's not just living to 100, but being younger while you get to 100, not just physically, but mentally and physiologically. That means I don't want to age, not just because of my aesthetics, my looks, but also primarily because of how my brain function, my reproductive system function. I want to have the testosterone of a 20-year-old when I'm 80. So when I start to understand that I could have a lot better life quality and functionality of my body, because now after almost 20 years later, I can think I'm much more intelligent. I am way much more intelligent. Although I'm getting to 40, I'm already 40, but I feel younger than when I was 22. I'm more intelligent, although I'm aging. I'm a better athlete, although I'm aging. I function better every kind of aspect that I can think of. But coming back to fasting, I decided to do a 24-day water fast, and I did it. Actually, I decided to do a 20-day water fast, and then it got prolonged 4 days more. But I started my first 3 days of fasting. I was feeling ill. I was feeling terrible. Getting out of bed to go to the bathroom was terrible, but I could feel it was the right thing to do, although I was feeling like crap. And after 7 days, my body starts to break out of a rash, like in my whole chest, like redness, like I got like smallpox. All my chest was break down in rashes and redness. It was like so strange, and like really little water pimples all around my body. And yeah, around also the 7th day, because I was a Counter-Strike player, my hand was really because I was Counter-Strike player, playing computer games for like 6 to 8 hours per day, every day for like 5 years in a row, traveling the whole world to compete. That was actually my job. And I was eating bad, I was smoking, drinking, and having a terrible lifestyle. Because I was a kid, traveling the whole world to compete, we were making money, and I didn't know I had to take care of myself. So my hand, I probably got some kind of like arthritis in my hand. It was really hurting here, like for a couple of years, maybe 3 years. And then during fasting, the pain started to increase a lot in my hand. And I was really in pain in my hand. And the hand got like really red. I didn't understand back then what is the signs of inflammation, but those are the cardinal signals of inflammation. The body is sending new cells because they carry nutrients, they carry oxygen to the place. So they can kill the old cells here, and renew the cells and correct the damage. So the body was actually causing inflammation in my hand for repairing. And after 3 days, the pain was gone, and the pain was gone forever because I couldn't feel it anymore, the pain that I got for like a few years back. It was pretty impressive seeing my body healing for the first time. See how well the body can regenerate when I allow him to. So actually in the 14th day, I got like really emotional. It was like I was healing emotional traumas that I didn't know I had. It was like I was setting free, the shame of being bad in something. I was accepting myself. It was like so many neurological changes that was happening that I got more mature. I got more wise. I don't know what happens, but I could deal myself a lot better. I could deal emotionally and socially a lot better after the fast. And I also felt my reproductive system, like the fast was doing something to my reproductive system. And afterwards, for sure, it worked even better. And around the 12th day, cry inside of me. It was like so amazing because it was not like I'm not a guy that usually rarely cry. But I started crying, but it was out of my control. It was like my body and my spirit talking to each other, and my body was crying, and I could hear it from outside of my body. It was like the strangest feeling I ever felt in my whole life. It was like my body talking to me and saying, I was expecting for you to release me since you are 2 years of age. Like the body was in pain, crying inside since I was 2, because probably some damage I had to my health, maybe vaccines, some remedies, some pills that my mom gave me. She gave me a lot of antibiotics. I took a lot of vaccines. I took a lot of stuff because I was always sick. I don't know what damaged my health, probably when I was 2, and I'm not a spiritual guy. I'm not that kind. So, and although I relate to that experience, like not spiritually, but maybe physiologically, like my microbiota was talking to me and saying like, I needed this. I need the time to repair. So stay, don't eat. The body was talking to me, and I needed to break the fast because my university was about to begin. I was going to lose the whole semester university if I didn't went to school. So that's why I broke in the 24 days. But I should have gone longer because my body was asking, and I didn't feel like eating. Actually, when I started eating, I felt worse, not better. So I should have gone longer. It was pretty obvious to me that my body wanted, but I was scared. I did it in my home alone. And I'm not suggesting anybody to fast alone. Fasting should be under medical supervision, and I'm highly against water fasting without medical supervision. But back then I didn't have the money. I lived with my parents. I was much more a kid, and I had to do what I needed to do. So I just read a lot of Herbert Shelton's book. I started practicing a frugivore diet to get my body clean as most as I could before the fast, and I just did my fast following strict natural hygiene rules. So I rested for the 24 days. I didn't go out of my house. I drank a lot of water. I kept reading natural hygiene books throughout the fast to understand more hygiene to apply to my daily living. And I'm so glad that the fast was so successful. But at the 24th day, I was still like crying inside of me. Like my microbiota, I don't know, it's spirit and body or microbiota, and the microbiota talks to you. I don't know, something was talking to me saying like, I need this rest. I'm happy that you gave me this rest that I was expecting for 22 years. My body cried of happiness instead of sadness. It was the most impressive and most motivating sensation that I ever had in my whole life, that I said to myself, I swore to myself, I'm going to help the whole world to heal, to regenerate, to cure themselves. I'm going to share this message with human race, that people understand that health is produced by healthful living and no other means can produce health. We have to live by nature laws, by the biological needs that our DNA evolved for millions of years. And yes, we evolved putting our feet on the ground. We evolved picking raw organic fruits and vegetables from the trees. We evolved practicing a lot of physical activity every single day before each meal. We evolved getting a lot of sunshine. We evolved breathing a lot of fresh air. We evolved having dinner early. We evolved going to bed early. But nowadays, that is radical. That is crazy. So that is my mission, to educate people about natural hygiene, and that we could all be living a way much better health, life, and sustainability in the planet. But I then decided to break my water fast in the 24th day. Although my body didn't want it, I just asked my parents to buy some papaya for me, and I ate some small amounts of papaya, really tiny small amounts. And like after I ate, I was like tired. It was a really different sensation. It was my first water fast. Nowadays, after almost 20 years of practicing natural hygiene and having done a lot of water fasts. If you haven't watched my documentaries, there's 3 documentaries of water fasting in my YouTube channel in Portuguese, but they have subtitles, primarily, even more, the first one have perfect subtitles. The other ones are subtitled by YouTube. But the 39-day water fast also have in Lauren Lockman Tanglewood channel. But I will post the documentary in the near future in this channel as well, so you can see my longest fast until now. And I also plan to do another 39-day water fast, or other 40-day water fast, because I feel that my body can regenerate even more than have already regenerated until now. So after that, I swear to myself that I was going to share this message, and I went to nutrition university. I wrote 10 books. I created, now I have like 1 million followers in Brazil. So I needed to get the word out there to heal people. And now I'm trying to also take my work to English, spread my work and natural hygiene's message to the world, because the world must understand the science behind it to be motivated to understand that fasting is the ultimate doctor, is the medicine, the primary doctor that are within us. So I wrote Hygienic Fasting Nature Surgery in Portuguese almost 14 years ago, and the book is still really updated and comprehensive until today, because I haven't seen anything more precise, more updated to science, and updated to natural hygiene concepts, because natural hygienists have been supervising water fasts for almost 200 years. And we accumulated all these knowledge in the books, and I read the main fasting supervisors until now, and have summarized all the information in terms of science and in terms of practical application in this book that is actually available on Amazon and on Kindle in print on demand. Now we are going to start the podcast. I felt that I needed to give this introduction so you can understand how fasting helped me and how fasting actually could save the world. But the podcast doesn't have sponsors, because nobody wants to sponsor healthy things. They want to sponsor supplements, pills, remedies, surgeries, things that really give people a lot of money. But like talking about fruits and vegetables, is there a farmer over there like that produces broccoli that want to sponsor this podcast? Probably not, right? So fasting, exercise, fresh fruits and vegetables, sunshine, you cannot make money out of it. So I'm not going to sell out for, making money out of supplements if I don't believe them, if I don't take them. So I maintain the truth for myself with natural hygiene, and I only sell information. I only help people with my nutrition consultations online and in private sessions. All the 10 books that I have published, but until now we have only 2 translated to English. There's 6 online courses, and there's also retreats here in Brazil that are teaching raw culinary gourmet foods and the science of health in general. So if you want to help the podcast, if the information is helping you out, please find the links below to buy the book or even to give the books, and schedule a consultation so I can help you apply these healthy concepts in your daily living and have a better health. What other subjects would you want to view here? Do you want to know more about? Please comment below. Don't forget to share the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to help our work and help yourself, 2 of my 10 books are already translated and published in English on Amazon. And Hygienic Fasting Nature Surgery is actually available print on demand also. And Natural Delicacies Cooking Without a Stove, it's on Kindle. So if you want my help, the link below for the website and for the WhatsApp contact, you can get a consultation, retreats, online courses, and read all the books. It's life-changing information for the most updated lifestyle information out there in the planet. So, and you don't need to help buying a service, you can just hit the like button, comment below, share the video, subscribe, and hit the bell button for notifications. The more interaction you do with the video, the more YouTube understand that this is a good video and show to more people and help more and more, and we can help more people to understand that health is produced by healthful living. You can message me below through WhatsApp or through email, and I can lecture at your city, at your event. Quoting Hippocrates, the first Western medical doctor, we all have a doctor inside of us. We must only assist him in his work. The natural power of internal regeneration is the greatest strength we have to return to health. Our food should be our medicine. Our medicine must be our food. But to eat when you're sick is to feed the illness. So fasting has been recognized through human history as a means to recover health. And we can also see Herbert Shelton's, I really also love Herbert Shelton's quote that I put in the first chapter of the book. A loss of appetite is a sign of disease and nature's way of indicating the path towards the cure. It indicates to the organism its own and only remedy. Its only remedy is abstinence. Abstinence of food, obviously. So why to fast? Why animals fast? Why plants fast? Most people are not aware of any animal that goes through stress, physical stress or mental stress, it loses its hunger. Probably already went through emotional stress. For example, the loss of a loved one, or the breakup of a relationship, or you broke a bone, or you got fever, you got ill. Do you think like eating a huge buffet, eating it like a lot? No, you feel like resting and stop eating for a while. Because to process emotions, you always need abstinence, because the energy is diverged to the gastrointestinal system for the process of nutrition, or diverged to heal and repair, or a broken bone, or even emotional issues must be dealt. So that's why we should fast, because hunger is the ultimate form of nature saying, now it's time to eat. But when you don't feel hungry at all, it's simply your body knowing that there's enough body fat so you can live out of your reserves for maybe a day or two, or maybe even longer than that, and say, now let's focus on repairing. And that's what animals do. If you see like a salamander, for example, maybe you already heard of the axlot. It's even on Minecraft games. It's even, it's now a lot of people know about the axlot, because it's a salamander that is put in laboratories, and they keep cutting pieces of these salamanders. They cut pieces of the salamanders, like they cut their tail, they cut an arm, and they wait for the salamander to regenerate. But the animal does this regeneration in fasting mode. So if you cut a lot of animals like starfish or worms, they all can regenerate members. They all can regenerate limbs. But they do that while fasting, because fasting can redirect the energy that was going to the digestive system for the nutritive process, so it can focus on repair, because it demands a lot less energy to break the reserves, to break the energy that is already inside of you, instead of breaking the energy, breaking the food that comes from the outside. So when you don't have to break the food and incorporate into living structure, you have a lot more energy left to deal with whatever the body needs. For sure, the body has limitations, and we are going to talk about the limitation of matter in a short while. And we are not salamanders. Scientists estimate that we have lost this regeneration capability when we went out of the seas from reptiles to mammals. When we evolved from reptiles to mammals, mammals lost this ability of regeneration, because the more complex the animal is, the lessen the capacity of its regeneration. But still, we can still regenerate a lot of things as human beings, because you probably already broken a bone, right? When you break a bone, what do? You can put a cast on it so you don't move your leg, but still, it's not the cast that is healing your bone from the inside. It's your body that is actually sending nutrients to the place so it can kill old cells through apoptosis and renew those cells and knit the bone together so the broken bone actually comes back again and you can start functioning again. Like, it's quite impressive if you think about it. But when you cut yourself, you don't have to think heal, heal, heal. Or even if you put a band-aid on it, it's not the band-aid that does the healing, it's your body. It's your body automatically, as soon as you get damaged, the regeneration mechanisms are turned on because the body is intelligent and not the band-aid or the cast that you put on your bone, on your leg to not move. So we can take a look at throughout human history, and we can see that religions have been practicing fasting and propagating fasting as a really good thing throughout millennia right now. We can take a look, for example, the old Greeks, the Greek philosophers, they were already talking a lot about fasting. Or in Roman texts, Egypt texts, the Mongolians, the Syrians, they all believed that fasting was a necessity to maintain good health, to prolong life and youthfulness, and that eating excessively ages the body and produces disease. Egyptians believed that fasting for 3 days per month was a necessity. So fasting is a ritual practiced by practically every religion throughout the world. Only the Bible, for example, have 74 references to fasting. Since the beginning of Christianity, longer fasts were practiced by saints in the Old Testament, like Anne, Esther, Ezra, I don't know the names in English, but all the apostles. We all already heard about the longer fasting of Jesus, Daniel, David, Elias, Moses, having fasting for 40 days and 40 nights on water. The famous prophet Mohammed was an avid faster. Ancient Greek writers such as Homer and Herodotus mention fasting along with other spiritual leaders. Buddha, at age 36, fasted for 49 days on water under a banyan tree, and that story became legendary. And virtually almost all religions recommend fasting for purification, not just physically, but spiritually, mentally. So religions like Christianity, Buddhism, Brahmanism, Judaism, Hinduism, and Islamism, as well as shamanism from several different indigenous tribes, prescribe fasting. Muslims, for example, fast for an entire month. It's called Ramadan. It's not a complete water fast, but they fast from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And they also abstain themselves from several different foods as well. And it's not just then. Aristotle, Plato, Socrates used to defend that only through fasting the mind can be purified enough to understand the teachings of life, the secrets behind life itself. All of these Greek philosophers use it to advocate fasting as a way to be more mentally capable and to restore health. Also, the famous teacher Yogananda suggested fasting provides rest to worn organs, which are the gears powering the organism, and eating excessively every day of the year generates many types of diseases. And the more you concentrate on the palate, the more diseases you face. It's good to appreciate foods, but becoming a slave to them is to meet your downfall in life. There was also the Zulu African tribe that used to say, the continually stuffed body cannot see secret things, suggesting that the individual that eats constantly and in big quantities cannot see the secrets of life, cannot see life's details, cannot enjoy life in its fullest, cannot be a wise man. The painter Leonardo da Vinci, Shakespeare, and other important figures of the medieval age also talked about fasting. Even Ghandi, Tolstoi, more modern philosophers and peacekeepers. Tolstoi and his fellows even recommend fasting as a means to diverge yourself from focusing too much on material things. A lot of other Russian painters used to fast for a day before starting to paint so they can get more creative. And I can relate completely. After fasting, I create a lot of recipes, a lot of my books, a lot of things I want to accomplish in terms of professional goals. I'm much more motivated and creative. There was also a hygienist called Arnold Ehret. He was actually about to die when he was around 40 years of age from Bright's disease. And then he found fasting and a natural hygiene diet, a fruit and vegetable based diet, and he healed himself. And he would suggest that the master key for evolution and revelation of mental and spiritual is fasting. So now I ask you, would Ghandi, Buddha, and all these other pacifiers of human race, or these spiritual men, these men that were seen as elevated in terms of mental and spiritual processes, were they actually born this way, or fasting and living a healthy life made them this way? Because Gandhi is famous for trying a diet based on fruit only. And Buddha as well is famous for eating a lot of bananas. So are these men being purified by a frugivore diet and fasting, and then becoming altruists and trying to help people? Or they was just born this way? I think that fasting and a natural hygiene lifestyle, a more natural lifestyle, brings the best inside of us in terms of behavior. But also, if we take a look at famous medical doctors throughout history, they all prescribed fasting as well. We can start by Dr. Edward Dewey, an US Army doctor and surgeon. He used to say, "I suggest that during an illness, eating becomes a burden on the patient, consuming energy that should be used to fight off the disease." So Thessalus, Hippocrates, Galen, Asclepiades, there was all famous Greek medical doctors back in the day, like more than 1,000 years ago, were always strong advocates of fasting. And they used to utilize fasting for more than 2,000 years. And they were already utilizing fasting as a therapeutical modality 2,000 years ago. Hippocrates would believe that fasting allows the body to regenerate itself. Roman medical doctor Celsius prescribed fasting to treat epilepsy and jaundice, while the famous Arab Avicena often prescribed fasts from 3 to 5 weeks. According to Dr. Douglas Graham, in Greek temples back in the days, there were actually Greek hospitals. People were treated before getting to the temples with 3 days of water fast. And they continued on these temples to rest and eat fruits until they recover. There's also historical data on these temples on Egypt that they also used fasting. Also, in the 16th century, the famous Paracelsus, he suggested fasting is the greatest remedy, the physician within. I love also this quote from Dr. Anton Nicolai. What is more sense? To feed the patient and give him medicine and keep him sick for the rest of his life, or making him thin for a while and make him absolutely well? And there's also professional fasting. That means exhibitionist fasting. We have the case, for example, the magician Dave Blair, that he spent 44 days in a box in the Tower Bridge of London, in a big glass box on the top of Tower Bridge in London, being hung up on a glass box. After that, he was fed with industrialized food, with processed food, and for sure, he suffered from reefeding syndrome. So you have to take care of that. When we're going to talk about reefeding syndrome, in the end of this episode or the next episode on fasting. Or you can also quote Upton Sinclair: "Through fasting, I achieved perfect health, a new state of existence, a sense of purity and joy, something unknown to humans." So what are the usual and the visible benefits from fasting? You have more energy. Everybody relates that they have less energy after a heavy meal, more energy after a light meal, and even more energy when you don't fast. Fuel is not energy, and we have to disassociate these two things. Food gives you fuel. Energy comes from sleep and not from spending your energy to digest the fuel, to incorporate the fuel in your living organism. There's also detoxification. Not just people relate being a lot more cleaner. We can also measure several kinds of detoxification mechanisms going on, being turned on by fasting, like AMPK, foxols, sirtuins, and phase 1 and phase 2 of enzyme liver detoxification. Without eating, the body can actually remove these endogenous. With the process of nutrition, the body needs always to eliminate a lot of the toxins that is produced. It's like your car. To run your car, you have to burn the fuel, the gasoline. And to burn gasoline, you excrete carbon dioxide. The body does the same thing. When we fuel it with food, the body produces several compounds that we call metabolites that needed to be thrown out of the body. Like, for example, poop is somewhat a metabolite. If you think about it, your body has to excrete the rest of the food that is not needed, that is not wanted, that is not useful. Your body has to excrete, for example, eating and living produces free radicals. So you have to defend yourself, detoxify from free radicals. So there's a lot of things going on through the nutritional process that the body, when it's not being nourished by external nutrients, by exogenous nutrients, it can actually focus more on eliminating these toxins that are stored within us. For example, dioxins, PCBs, heavy metals, and petrochemicals are also eliminated as well. The other one is mental clarity. I don't know if you ever fasted, but everybody that already fasted can relate that they feel a lot more clarity of mind while fasting. That is probably because BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, the substance that is actually produced in our intestine and goes to our minds, and it actually helps to promote neurogenesis and neuroprotection. That means you are forming new neurons and you are protecting the ones that you already have. I'm not recommending fasting whatsoever because it's dangerous to do on your own. You have to have medical supervision. But if you think about it, all these great thinkers from human history, they are always famous for fasting, and now we know that BDNF actually helps with mental clarity, mental function. So there is always a scientific connection, but there's also empirical, historical connection to it. During fasting, actually the cortisol goes down and serotonin goes up along long water fast, right? That's why we feel the fasting high. You feel like being doped. It's different. You feel like calm, peace of mind and peace of body. There's also rejuvenation. Yes, fasting induces visible rejuvenation. After like a week of fast, you can see like the skin and the eyes. It's like you get younger every day you fast. Although you can get more skinner, more slim. And a lot of people, after my long water fast at the internet and not personally, not in person, think that I look more aged. But it's not that you aged. It's just that you are as thin and as really, really thin, and people think that you are maybe sick or something like that. So rejuvenation, actually fasting can make you move backwards. I'm going to talk about experiments in animals that makes them live a lot longer in the future episodes. But you can easily see by your teeth and skin and hair that the teeth becomes whiter, the hair becomes stronger, the skin becomes more soft, the eyes, you look a little bit younger actually. And you always look a lot better after you fast. All my best pictures, my best looks, it's always after the refeeding process. The first few days for sure, your skin, you're thin as, but afterwards, after the refeeding process and you gain your weight back, you look a lot better. But for sure, also fasting slows down the aging process, and there's a lot of research on animals that they can live just by caloric restriction. They can live up to 30% to 40% more. Fasting also speed up the regeneration process. It's not that you're not going to regenerate if you don't fast, you're still going to regenerate. Not as much and not as fast. We're also going to talk about the research on Valter's Longo, fasting mimicking diets, regenerating pancreatic beta cells. That means actually maybe fasting can cure type 1 diabetes. Yes, there's a lot of research showing that, and after studying so much hygiene and living fasting and having the experience on it, I can say that if there's a possibility of regeneration, fasting for sure is the biggest chance that you have. Although a hygienic lifestyle can help you a lot with your health, nothing as fasting does the job as fast and as efficiently. For sure, fasting is the ultimate weight loss. There's no way of losing weight faster than by not eating. And also, it's an excellent way as well of all the hygienists from 200 years ago until now, they actually say that fasting is the greatest way to leave addictions behind. If you smoke, if you drink, after 1 or 2 days of water fasting, you think it's so harmful. You can feel that the substance is so noxious that you never want to do it again. But only after a couple or 3 days of fasting can you actually detach yourself from these harmful substances. And you can feel that it is actually interfering with your, you can feel it better, these neurofeedbacks. Also, fasting can improve your physical and mental capacities. Yes, fasting renew your body cells. Fasting also acts on your mitochondria. So we call it autophagy. When you renew the mitochondria for new ones, you clean out these damaged mitochondria. That actually these mitochondria is a organelle, it's a cell organelle, a piece of the cell that produces ATP, the energy. It gets the sugar inside of the cell, it runs through the Krebs cycle, generate ATP, but these generate also free radicals. These cause damage. These are worn out. Like the tires in your car. You need to change the tires once in a while after you run for many miles. The same thing happens with the mitochondria. You need to fast to give the autophagy, these clean out processes that fasting does, to renew the mitochondria for what we call mitochondrial biogenesis, to create new mitochondria for they can function efficiently and properly. So after a fast, you're going to be a better athlete and you're going to learn faster. To sharpen the senses also. It's impressive after a few days of fast. You can smell better, you can hear better, you can see better, even touching is enhanced. It's like you can feel it better. You feel more, not just emotions, but the touch, everything is more intense. And also your palate. After a few days of fast, nothing sharpens the palate as fasting does. So fruits and vegetables, natural foods, unprocessed foods, they become so much more appealing to our palates and to our senses. And even a little bit of salt and sugar, it becomes like vile. It is just too much. Also, there's better sexual functioning. Yes, I cannot relate for women, but I can relate for men. You can hold orgasms longer, you have better erections, you have a better libido, and there's also Avicena, this old Arab physician used to say that fasting enhances the reproduction process. So if you are infertile and want to have a baby, fasting optimizes this process. But if you think about it, fasting is actually optimizing circulation. For example, for the penis to become erectile, you need good blood circulation. So fasting optimizes hormone circulation, and also the weight loss is quite famous for helping sexual problems. So you lose weight, you lose body fat, so that makes your whole body physiology functions better. And as we are going to see far ahead in this lecture, fasting in the animal kingdom for reproduction is quite common. And there's also, you save a lot of money while you're fasting because you're not eating and you're not spending the time you're going to eat while you are fasting. You not just save money on pills, but you also save money on food. And you become so much more healthy that you need less consultations, you need less health insurance, and there you go. And there's also natriuresis. Fasting helps your body to eliminate excess sodium in the urine. As Benjamin Franklin once said, I saw few die of hunger, but of eating 100,000. And that's actually really, really interesting because a lot of people say bad things about fasting, but we don't see almost nobody dying of hunger or dying of fasting or dying of malnutrition. But we see a lot of people nowadays dying of overnutrition of calories, but undernutrition of micronutrients. That means obesity, heart disease, cancer, diabetes. People are always dying around us of deficiencies of excess calories, but deficiencies of micronutrients. That is the cause of the standard American modern diet. There is even an article on British Medical Journal suggesting treatment with fasting was positive as the weight loss was rapid and therefore encouraging to the patient. The resulting hunger usually causes less discomfort than a caloric restriction diet, and during later refeeding, patients can easily tolerate a regime of 800 calories. That means restricting calories is hard. That's why people cannot go on a diet. But restricting food intake, any food intake whatsoever, water fasting is easier. What I see from my own experience and from the experience of others is that when you start your day and you just drink water the whole day, it's way easy to fast. But when you eat something, if I just touch some sugar on my lips, I want to eat to satiation. So I'm not recommending water fasting without supervision, but that is a good rule of thumb. If you are fasting because of the increase of ketones on our bloodstream, it makes easier for the body to maintain the fast because the ketones suppress your hunger, suppress your appetite. But if you eat something, then you want to eat to satiation. So it's much easier to fast than do caloric restriction, even in scientific terms. I love this quote from Joe Furman that says, fasting to lose weight without changing your diet makes no sense. I have to agree with him. We are not focusing on fasting to lose weight. We are focusing on fasting for regeneration as a therapeutic modality to produce health. But for sure, a lot of people use fasting to just lose weight, and the main focus on life for a health seeker, if you are here seeking to understand more about health and natural hygiene, is that people lose sight about fasting. They just focus on fasting and detox and cure themselves, but they don't understand that the main focus should be on hygienic lifestyle. That means understanding how and why and practicing a healthful living like sunshine, exercise, diet, sleep. These details are much more important than fasting itself, because think about it. If you fast, if you do a really long fast every year, let's say 30-day water fast, you still have 335 days to live and to make lifestyle choices like what to eat. So if you do a lot of bad stuff during these 335 days, what do you think it will accumulate and count way more? You know, you cannot fast your whole life. You cannot fast forever. You are not going to live fasting. You're going to live eating most of the days, a lot of the time. So learn how to make correct choices throughout the year, and fasting will not be a necessity. Fasting is only a necessity when you make a lot of bad choices pretty frequently. And even though you can fast and regenerate something and reverse a disease, if you come back to the old habits, fasting is not a cure. You're not maintaining the results if you don't manage to maintain a good lifestyle habits. As Professor C.M. Child from the University of Chicago in his book Senescence and Rejuvenescence said, partial starvation, fasting, inhibits senescence, aging. Older organisms, when fasting, are returned to the start of their post-embryonic lives. It's almost like being born again. Why he says this? Because he actually tried an experiment with worms. He just fed the worms normally, and before the end of their lives, a little bit before they die, before they get really old and die, he just starved these worms. He fasted then, because scientists think fasting is starvation, but we're still going to learn the difference between starving and fasting. But he fasted these worms until almost they lost all the body fat, and they actually come back to the beginning of their lives. That means they reversed aging so that they were like born again, as he said, post embryonic life. Embryo, like the beginning of life itself, like the beginning of the organism's life. So these worms can live for months without food, and they keep getting smaller and smaller, but when they are refed again, they show a lot of signs of a new organism, of an organism that was just born. So with that experiment, he managed to maintain worms to live for 16 generations. That means all the other worms have died 16 times. That means these worms that fasted and fed, were living 16 generations longer. You have to understand that when we have a perfect milieu, a perfect environment inside our bodies, the process of catabolism, the process of breaking down, the process of aging is really reduced, because it's like a car. When you take really good care of the car, it will last a lot longer. So these metabolites, these toxins that are stored within our bodies when we live in a wrong manner, even when we live in a right manner, but we don't live as healthy, so the body cannot deal with these metabolites pretty well, they accumulate and they end up aging us, intoxicating us. So now we have to understand what it means autophagy or autolysis, as scientists used to call decades ago. Autolysis means auto-destruction, and autophagy means auto-eating. It's simply the process of fasting. When the cells fuel themselves, deprived of nutrients, they start to degrade themselves. In the words of Dr. Herbert Shelton, the word autolysis comes from the Greek, literally means self-destruction. It's used in physiology to indicate the process of digestion and disintegration of the tissues by enzymes generated by the cells themselves. It's a process of autodigestion, intracellular digestion, inside the cell, like digestion inside the cell. We can see examples in several different kinds of living organisms. Example of autolysis is the egg itself. There's a small sperm inside the egg. There's a small life. And the whole egg is actually nutrients. So this minuscule life starts to digest the nutrients in the egg, to utilize these nutrients to form itself a new chicken. Or the seed, the sunflower seed, the avocado seeds, the mango seeds, the papaya seed, they all have a lot of nutrients in the seed itself. So when you throw on the ground and water it, it starts to sprout. It sprouts into huge tree one day, but it starts to sprout into a small tree, into a really tiny plant, but it keeps using the nutrients inside the seeds, the fat, the protein, the carbohydrates, the minerals, the vitamins, to generate a new life. So it's not just plants or these lesser animals that do this autolysis. Actually, autophagy, as it's normally called nowadays, it was discovered and popularized by, it was actually the Nobel Prize winner of medicine in 2016, Yoshinori Usumi. So one of the main things in aging is the accumulation of old proteins and damaged organelles, the compartments of the cell, the parts of the cell that can occur even if you live in a right manner, even if you live healthy. But for sure, if you live unhealthy, it occurs way more fast and more potent. So this autophagy mechanism is actually an evolutionary mechanism that evolved with the beginning of life on planet Earth. It's coeval to life itself. So every living organism on the planet, from fungi to animals or to plants, have this capacity. This recycle mechanism that we call autophagy, it's essential for homeostasis, for the organism to maintain balance, to maintain health, because the body cannot clean itself as fast as it gets intoxicated. So autophagy is just a quality control of the capacity of the functionality of your body, of the functionality of your cells. It's just the body cleaning house. So you have to understand that throughout human history, food was not as abundant as it is today. So we couldn't eat every 3 hours, every day, every week. But we also have abundance of diseases more than ever. And it's not coincidence. So one of the most interesting things on autolysis is that autolysis occurs from the least essential tissue to the most essential tissue. That means autolysis works on primarily body fat, because body fat is used to accumulate energy for the body when there's no food around. So the body is not stupid. It doesn't autolyze your muscles first. It actually goes for the body fat. And is even more intelligent than you can think of, because the body goes for the visceral fat and not the subcutaneous fat. That means your body consumes first the harmful fat that stays around your organs, that causes metabolic syndrome like diabetes and hypertension. And afterwards, after consuming all this bad fat, it goes for under your skin fat. And then when the fat ends, then you start starvation, because there's fasting starts in the end of the last meal to the end of the body fat and nutrient reserves. And starvation starts when body fat and nutrients ends until the organism dies. So it's pretty different from fasting to starvation. To fast is to live, is to regenerate, is to construct, to build, to renew. But starvation is actually to die, to suffer, to damage the body. So there's a nature created us to feel when we need to fast, but when we need also to break the fast. So if the fast is not pleasurable, if the fast is not easy to carry on, it's the fast scares you. If you feel any kind of scare during your fast, for sure you're probably starting to have issues with the fast. Some nutrients went down, your body fat's too low, and then you need to break your fast. Shelton quotes old hygienist that actually quotes old research on people dying of starvation. And it doesn't matter how long they go, but the heart and the brain almost never lose any weight whatsoever. It doesn't have catabolism. That means the body's as smart as it can be, preserving the most important organs, the heart and the brain. The other organs are consumed before the heart and the brain. But I'm not suggesting people never try to see if that experiment is right. I also, Dr. Edward Hookie Dewey. The fact is that during an autopsy, we found it doesn't matter how emaciated the body is, the skeleton, brain, heart, and lungs showed no losses until they themselves were diseased. This means that the body will consume all its tissues except the essential ones, always preserving the ones vital and crucial to life. So there's several other examples. For example, your thymus gland. It gets autolyzed when the body stops growing. It finishes growing from the adolescent phase to the adult phase. This gland is actually autolyzed. It involutes itself because you don't need it anymore. Autolysis is quite similar to digestion itself. Digestion breaks macronutrients in micronutrients. Autolysis breaks these old nutrients to be used by the organism as fuel or and also to be renewed. New cells that can function better. There's macrophagy, there is microphagy, the two parts of the autophagy, right? The big parts of the cell are also eaten. These proteins, these big parts are also eaten, but there's the small parts that are also eaten and renewed, like the mitophagy, as I said before. Mitophagy is the cleaning of the house, the renewal of the mitochondria. Another example is the metamorphosis that we are going to talk later in animals. These animals like the toad and the tadpole. The tadpole actually, when he is doing his metamorphosis to become a toad, he actually eats his tail through the inside, but he doesn't eat his brain or his muscles. He just eats the unnecessary parts to nourish the more necessary parts. Or another huge example would be mulberries and figs. If you break a twig of a fig, you can regrow itself just by putting on the ground. You can actually make the branch of the fig just autophagy his own nutritive reserves to grow new roots, and from the roots then to start nourishing himself again and to become a new tree. Or the branch of a mulberry. If you cut the mulberry and put it on the ground, it will grow new roots. So it's beautiful that even trees have their own body fat inside their branches and twigs, inside their parts. Like Dr. John Tilden once said, in all seriousness, I must say that fasting, when combined with an appropriate diet, is the closest we can conceivably get to a cure for all diseases. It's profoundly simple and simply profound. So what they mean with this is that fasting can break down abnormal tissue. It can break down, old hygienists suggested that fasting can actually autophagy, autolysis tumors. That means cancer. or atherosclerosis. That means the plaques that build up on the arteries that causes heart disease, or even warts, kidney stones, cholelithiasis. That means kidney stones and gallstones. Quoting Dr. Herbert Shelton, the removal of tumors by autolysis has several advantages over their surgical removal. Surgery is always dangerous. Autolysis is a physiological process and carries no danger. Surgery allows lower vitality and thus adds to the metabolic perversion that causes the tumor. Fasting, by which autolysis of tumors is accelerated, normalizes nutrition and permits the elimination of accumulated toxins, thus helping to remove the causes of the tumor. After surgical removal, tumors tend to recur. After their autolytic removal, there is low probability of recurrence. Tumors often recur in malignant form and after their operative removal. The probability of malignant after their surgical removal. The probability of malignant tumors reappearing is removed by fasting. That means tumors can only recur if the old habits, the carcinogenic habits, are again practiced by the individual. And one of the most beautiful things on fasting is that nutrition is continuous. Although we are fasting, our bodies, our cells, our systems, our organs need nutrients. So it's not like you stop eating completely. Although you're not eating, your body is eating itself with this autophagy mechanism. So you're still being nourished. Your cells still receives blood, nutrients, but it receives the nutrients that were already stored in your body instead the nutrients that comes from the food we eat. And it's quite funny you see during fasting because you can see still your nails growing. You can still see your beard, your hair, skin hair, everything continues to grow normally, although a little bit slower, but it does grow. Shelton used to compare the reproductive glands of the salmon because they continue to grow and the salmon can continue to reproduce even during fasting, even during a month without eating. Nature did the living organisms, all of us, from worms to human beings, to be a completely independent, a completely self-sustainable, intelligent organism. So we can nourish from the outside, we can nourish from the inside. Everything is focused on the nutrition of the organism because nutrition is life itself. To function, you have to be nourished. To live, to breathe, you have to be nourished. So everything was fought by the creation, by life itself, by nature, to create us so we could live under any kind of condition. The tadpole, for example, it continues to grow 4 new legs, although he is fasting during his metamorphosis. The salmon, although he continues to get thinner, he continues to reproduce. And the starfish actually can regrow a part of itself, although it is not eating. So that you have to understand, there's not just body fat that you store. For example, vitamin B12, we know that can be stored in the liver for actually 10 years. We do store a lot of nutrients and these nutrients can last for a long time. So they're soluble nutrients that are water soluble nutrients, that fat soluble nutrients. For example, vitamin C, we have to consume pretty frequently because it is in and out because it's water soluble. But the fat solubles like vitamin A, vitamin K, vitamin E, and D, these all are more stored in our bodies. It's like you can think like carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Carbohydrates, they only are stored for like 1 to 2 days most because the glycogen is breaking down pretty fast. It's a small reserve that we have. But body fat is a big reserve. We have at least 40 days in a normal human being, even longer than that. So fat is more storable. There's each kind of nutrient, there is a storage time. So fasting don't suspend metabolism actually. He just increases the catabolic parts and reduces the anabolic parts. When you're fasting, you're more into a catabolic state and less into an anabolic state. But it's still, metabolism keeps going. Both processes are going. When we fully understand the significance of the fact that regeneration is a process of life and that the process by which it occurs is a function of living organisms, as much as the process of digestion, respiration, circulation, elimination, and reproduction, then we were able to understand that so-called cures can come and go, but regeneration always go on. That means people don't understand that curing is way different than regeneration. Curing is preposterous. It's a wrong concept that human beings have created, thinking that you can actually be sick and cure yourself from night to day, from like the same minute in an hour, just by taking a remedy, taking something that can reverse disease without removing its cause. And reverse disease instantaneously because disease took years to develop. Like chronic diseases like cancer, it took maybe 20 years, 30, 40 years of the abuse of the organism. So it's such a complex biochemical, physiological change that happens throughout years that cannot be reversed in like seconds or an hour or so. So there is no cure in the sense generally understood. There is regeneration. Your body starts to regenerate like a wound. When you cut your hand, you can see the wound being closed and regenerating as the day goes by, as the days goes by. So it's the same thing with any of other diseases. Like for example, if you break your bone, it doesn't cure automatically. You have to wait for the body to bond the bone back together. So it would be the same for any kind of diseases whatsoever. When you provide the perfect milieu, the environment inside your body, when you provide exercise, sleep, sunshine, diet, your body has the tools to put it together, a symphony to balance your biochemistry, to come back to homeostasis. So you causes biochemical changes, hormonal changes, microbiota changes. You start through enzymes, through blood, through a lot of mechanisms to come back to health and repair the disease. That means disease is just a lack of balance, just a lack of equilibrium, just a lack of health itself. It's just an imbalance in the body that is being created by a toxic lifestyle. So when you correct your lifestyle, then you cure the disease. You don't cure it, you regenerate it. That would be the most, you heal. That would be more appropriate word. You can see by the breaking of your leg or the cutting of your hand, you don't have to think about it. The body starts the healing process instantaneously without having you to think. It's subconscious, but for sure it takes some time, and it takes you to stop the damage in that part. If you break your leg and continue to trying to break your leg again, trying to move your leg and pound it against a wall, or you keep punching a wall, you see that your body is not going to be able to regenerate your fist because you're continually causing the damage. And that is actually the exact thing that we do with our health, with our bodies. We keep consuming carcinogens, cancer compounds every single day with our diets, and we sleep late. That is actually a carcinogenic habit because electric lights cause reduction of DNA repair and increase in DNA damage. So you sleep late, you eat bad foods, you don't exercise, you don't get sunshine. All these factors are scientifically proven to enhance the cancer or to protect and help to kill the cancer. That means if you're sedentary, if you lack vitamin D, if you eat the wrong foods, and if you don't sleep properly, you develop cancer. But if you eat plant-based foods rich in phytonutrients, if you sleep early and well, if you exercise, and if you get good levels of vitamin D through the sun, you get protection from cancer. It's that simple. Although most people can understand or don't believe it's as simple as that. So you can think even in fever. Fever is an auto cure because fever is not caused by a bacteria that invades your body. Fever is actually caused by your own body. Your own nervous system can feel that it needs repairing. So it increases your body temperature to deal with pathogens, and then your own nervous system reduces again your body temperature because the higher temperature is not needed anymore because it has done the repairing mechanism that it needed to do. So during a fasting, it's quite easy to see the repairing process. A lot of inflammation in a place that was already damaged for a while, you were already suffering some pain in that part. You can easily feel or see the inflammation going on that organ. But the regeneration depends on free energy. If you are always digesting food, if you are trying to exercise during fasting, if you are not sleeping during fasting, you're going to reduce the regeneration capacity of your body, because it's like trying to eat a really huge and hard to digest meal and trying to go out for a marathon. Or you run or you digest. The body is not efficient in doing two things at the same time. So, as a German Nobel Peace Prize winner and famous physician once said, every patient is also their own doctor. So the only thing we need to do is not to interfere with our own internal doctor. So this lecture is really long. So we will divide the lecture in several different podcasts so it doesn't get too long each lecture. But if you like it, please don't forget to comment below if you want more videos, if you want the full lecture. And subscribe to the channel, hit the bell button for notifications, give it a thumbs up, share the video as much as you can, because the more interaction, the more YouTube understands that you like our channel, and he will show our channel more to you and to others that also need this information. And also, don't forget, if you need my help or if you need to understand more of the subject of fasting, I suggest you to read Natural Hygienic Fasting, Nature Surgery. On Amazon, there's also Nature's Delicacy on Cooking Without a Stove. And also, I help patients in consultations online in private sessions. There's also the raw food retreats happening here in Brazil in my farm. If you want our help to understand hygiene and to apply a more healthful living, a healthy lifestyle in your daily habits, please contact me with the number on the description. And don't forget to click these videos to know more.